Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, we got a new initiative out of the libraries of the state, but first, voter ID, the Romney campaign in Pennsylvania, Bonusgate, and more, all of that following these words.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, well, welcome back. Well, I'll tell you, we got a ton of stuff to do, so let's get right to it. We've got this controversial voter ID bill that passed the legislature the past week. Governor Corbett has signed it. The Romney campaign, what will they do in the state of Pennsylvania? We have Pete DeCoursey to talk about that. But first, Brad Bumsted with the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. I'll tell you, Brad, both you and Peter have been around this Capitol for a long time. Was the verbiage tough on this or what?
Yeah, it was 3 days of heated debate in the House on voter ID. And the net result is Republicans passed this bill. And starting in November, you'll have to show ID to be able to vote in Pennsylvania. And that ID has to have a photo with it. And that can be your driver's license, or it can be a passport, or military ID, university ID. Democrats predicted this will result in hardships for senior citizens and low-income people. Republicans say, look, if you don't have photo ID now, the state will give you one for free, but you have to go to a PennDOT office to get it. The allegation behind all of this from the Democrats is it was intended to help Republicans win elections, particularly the presidential race this year. Hard to say whether that's going to happen, because they also claimed that there aren't a lot of instances of fraud. So if that's the case, how can it have much impact?
There are about 15 states, you correct me, either one of you, about 15 states have done this. Some have. There was an argument that we have a stronger ID law, meaning we have fewer sources of ID that you can produce. And in addition to that, the Republicans would say that you have to produce a voter ID for everything, Peter. Everything. You can't live in this world without a voter ID.
Yeah. And, I mean, there were talk during the debate, they talked about, if you go to your gym, if you want to buy most prescription allergy medicines.
Right.
So
see a doctor, go to a bank.
Yeah, you are showing your driver's license quite a lot. Yeah. And keep in mind that if you look at the voting age population of Pennsylvania and the number of driver's licenses allotted to different individuals in Pennsylvania, the difference is only 120,000, and only 80% of those people are registered to vote. So you're starting with no more than 1% who won't have this, and not even clear how many of those 1% are registered to vote or will vote.
Now, Brad, the Democrats have said that they're likely to go to court on this, that I would presume they would seek to enjoin it so that it wouldn't go into effect. Pick that narrative up.
Well, the Senate Democrats have threatened to sue. The ACLU has indicated they will sue over this. And undoubtedly there will be a lawsuit. There'll be an effort to try to get an injunction. Who knows how that'll go. Right. But Majority Leader Mike Terzi told reporters after the vote that the Pennsylvania law is patterned after the Indiana law, which was upheld 6-3 by the U.S. Supreme Court. So they think they're on solid legal ground with this. There is also a question of whether the Justice Department can intervene. That sounds like a long shot based on...
Because we're not under the Voting Rights Act, and therefore we don't need pre-clearance to get these kind of changes.
Not like Texas did, where they blocked Texas's. They needed pre-approval from the Justice Department. But 3 Pennsylvania counties are under the Voting Rights Act in terms of having Spanish language on the ballot, which would give an opening to come in on this, but it's pretty remote.
I want to turn to Peter, but this big story about the Romney campaign. But before I do, there's one other wrinkle to this. It won't apply to the primary for our listeners. Is that correct?
That's correct. It won't be required for the primary, but you'll be asked for your ID.
But if you're voting for the first time, or you've moved from precinct to another precinct to vote, then you still must provide a voter ID under the old law. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, and then finally, you have 6 days when it does go into effect in the fall. Provisional, you'll vote provisionally, and then you have 6 days to provide something, correct?
That's correct, but you would have to come back with a photo ID.
I get it.
So who's going to want to do that twice?
All right, Peter, I thought it was a big story this week, and you wrote a great piece about it. let's start with the big thing. Romney is not going to surrender the delegate hunt in Pennsylvania, 54 delegates, 3 out of each congressional district. You picked that story up.
Yeah, the problem, though, is the way we elect delegates, Terry, because the state of New York, just to our north, elects delegates like we do by congressional district. But how the candidate does in each congressional district determines how many delegates you get. Here, the delegates run unaffiliated in the Republican primary. The Democratic primary is a typical American primary. They run as pledged delegates, and you get to pick later who wins. But in the Republican primary, it is what they call a beauty contest. So what happens is, particularly the Gingrich and the Romney campaigns did a good job of recruiting semi-famous people in each congressional district to run. So for example, Rick Santorum might win the state with 55% of the vote.
Right.
But only get a third or less of the delegates because it's a beauty contest. They have big names.
Yeah, I want to run to a break. I want to hang in on this story. I particularly want to ask you about the supporters that have now come out and endorsed Romney and what you think will happen in the campaign. All right, the Romney campaign in Pennsylvania. I wonder what Senator Santorum thinks about that. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, bringing educational innovation and freedom to the children of Pennsylvania. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by BetterSaferRoads.com. To voice your support for safer highways and less traffic congestion, visit BetterSaferRoads.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back to Newsmakers. Well, we continue our discussion we're going to head to the Romney campaign and do something with Bonusgate. Joining me, also joining the panel, is Laura Olson with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Laura, welcome.
Thank you.
We'll get to you in a moment. All right, Peter, these big endorsements come out of maybe not out of the blue, but certainly they're big, they're important. The Romney campaign has laid down a marker.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact is, the folks who worked most closely in the Republican Party in the 90s and aughts with Rick Santorum are almost without exception endorsing Mitt Romney. Governor Tom Ridge, who was elected the same year as Santorum, 94.
That's correct. Same campaign.
And has worked with him as Department of Homeland Secretary and as governor.
Right.
First went for Huntsman, now is for Romney. I mean,
Alan Novak, former chairman, state party chairman.
State party chairman for Ridge and Santorum. Bob Asher, who has raised millions of dollars for Rick Santorum.
The go-to money guy.
In the Pennsylvania Republican Party. Yeah. And several, now the congressmen are mixed. I think it's like 4-3 or something. I mean, Rick has his congressman too.
The ones who served when he was in the Senate, however, are for?
Romney.
All right.
All the new guys are for Santorum.
Laura, where's Tom Corbett in this?
Oh, he is staying out of it. Now, last week we saw his former campaign manager, Brian, who works for Brave Under Cox, which is Rick Santorum's media firm, come out and say he's going to be the state director for Rick Santorum in Pennsylvania. But the governor told us very clearly that that doesn't mean he's going to be a Rick Santorum guy, and he's probably going to stay out of it before the primary.
Brad, there's some. Go ahead.
And that goes back partly to the fact that the Romney people aren't going to spend money here, because when you're only going to get delegates, and they've already recruited congressmen and state senators and other people like that to run for them as delegates. To beat Rick Santorum in this state, if they could, would cost like it did in Ohio and Michigan, and they don't have the money to spend on a beauty contest.
Go ahead, Brad.
Well, it means a little more in a Republican primary, but who's endorsed who to the average voter means nothing. I mean, who cares which congressmen have endorsed? The only place it makes a difference is in terms of if they are delegates and then they are recognizable on a list of 15 people.
So you're all in agreement that the big names matter, right, Laura? That's what you're all saying.
Well, only in that sense, but not to the person who's going in to cast a vote.
So in the polls we saw this week show that Rick Santorum was handily beating Mitt Romney among Republican voters.
But hold on.
But the big question in each primary as we've gone to, Terry, as you see these pundits talk about, is who can win and who can beat Barack Obama. When you have the entire Republican establishment from the Santorum era saying this guy from Massachusetts can do better, because all of them know Santorum better than they do Romney.
Brad, does that not mean that Romney won't at some point say, gee, I can embarrass him? Yeah, Laura's right, it's a big lead, but they dissipate once.
But if
is it too expensive?
If Santorum wins 55% of the vote, as Laura mentioned, in the public debate, he's going to have countered the delegates that Romney picks up. Now, in the end, it's about delegates. I understand that, but it's also about momentum from state to state going to the convention.
Now there are five states. Big, I call it the Big East contest. You got right? Well, no, it's Delaware, New York, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Right. Romney should win Connecticut in a heartbeat. Rhode Island's small, a lot of Catholics. I mean, it would seem to me, Laura, New York and PA, it's just so expensive. I mean, running to,
We got a lot of media markets. We got a lot of people to try and reach out, and it's a big state.
All right, go ahead. Last word. We're going to run to a break.
At the end of the day, he wins just as much by just winning the delegates and not spending the money. Also, one thing, if all these Republican leaders care so much about reforming our election process, please change our Republican primary. The Democrats,
so I know. At least the pledge.
If you want votes to count,
I get it.
Make our primary count.
Good point. All right, when we come back, we're going to head to get a little update on Bonusgate. We have Pennsylvania politicians who've been, prosecuted and sent to prison? We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome back. Well, we got some big news in the continuing saga with Bonusgate, plus a trial for a state senator not connected with Bonusgate. Brad, take over.
Former House Speaker John Purcell and his co-conspirators will be sentenced this week in Dauphin County Court for their role in using $10 million in tax money to buy sophisticated computer equipment for Republican campaigns. That sentencing follows the second round of felony convictions for former Representative Mike Vion, a Democratic leader, again using public resources for campaigns. And that followed the conviction of former House Speaker Bill DeWeese on charges of using his staff essentially to campaign for him at taxpayers' expense.
Laura, pick it up.
Now, Bill DeWeese will be sentenced on April 24th, which your astute viewers will also note is the primary day. So he faced a little bit of a tussle over whether he should still be able to be on the ballot, because he will be
Now, hold
sentenced.
on. I want to interrupt you. I want you to explain this to our viewer. Has he resigned his seat? Bill DeWeese has been convicted. He doesn't have to give up his seat until he's actually...
He's not been convicted yet.
That's the tricky word.
He's not convicted technically under the law until he's sentenced.
Oh, he's sentenced on the 24th.
All
right. But a jury convicted him.
Correct.
He's
okay,
kind of
go
in a
ahead.
limbo
Explain
period
this.
between his jury conviction and his sentencing legally, where he still can remain in his seat. We've seen him on the House floor and had some committee meetings. But on April 24th, he will be sentenced. At that point, he will have to resign his seat.
Or be expelled.
Lose his pension. Or
he won't have to resign his seat. If you remember, Representative Frank Serafini continued to serve after he was sentenced for, I think, about 2 months.
Did they expel him? Did they expel him?
Well, eventually he resigned.
Under threat of expulsion. Right. I mean, Laura's right. Once you are sentenced, then there's pressure. But the fact is, as Brad says, there is inconsistent application of when they say we're going to vote to expel you.
But wouldn't the Republicans expel him?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
He would have to resign or else face the threat.
Okay.
Although when Sam Smith does that, Brad and Laura are going to ask him,
Speaker of the House,
why didn't you do that with Serafini? You clung on to Serafini.
So you guys are good.
Meanwhile, he's still on the ballot. So.
Yeah, okay, hold on. I want to go. We're running out of time. I want to go to one thing. We've got State Senator Jane Orey. This is a trial way out in Allegheny County. So we have viewers out in Allegheny County. Laura, give us a quick...
This is round 2 of Jane Orey's trial, because the first one, the evidence appeared to be altered and the judge ordered that the trial had to start over again because this evidence that was submitted appeared to have a signature that was cut and paste from another document.
So they've been the prosecution is saying that there were forgeries and they were playing around with these documents. And is that right, Brad?
Right, and the prosecution was wrapping up this week, and the defense was getting underway. It looks like it'll last about another week or so out in Allegheny County before we hopefully find out one way or the other whether she's guilty or innocent.
All right, one more to go in Bonusgate. 24 have been adjudicated in one form or another. One more to go, right? Former House member
Steve
Stetler over in New York. Any news about when that's likely to come to trial?
I believe it's in May.
In May, and then that will conclude.
Yes.
Pete DeCoursey, any
Well,
word?
it might not conclude. Remember, we've never had the Attorney General, either Attorney General, say it's over.
That's where I was going to go with you. Nothing going on in the state Senate.
It would conclude the current round of charges that are out there.
But now I remember when I had Governor Corbett on this program, he was Attorney General. I said, General Corbett, where does this go? He said it's still under, when I asked him about the Senate, still under investigation. Is that what you hear?
Yes.
But no grand jury to your knowledge, either of you, the three of you? If you don't know, no one knows.
And meanwhile, we have 3 candidates running for Attorney General to take over starting next year.
That's correct. Will be
My guess is we've heard the last of legislative prosecutions from this round. I think, what, it started in 2007? I think we've seen the charges they're going to bring out of that.
All right, that's it. Look, when we come back, we're going to, how are we going to talk about library initiatives after this discussion? But we've got some important library initiatives coming that I think you'll want to know about. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Hi, welcome back. Well, it's time for our popular financial literacy update segment with Mike Wishnow. He's a senior VP at the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. And joining me also is Paula Gilbert. She's the Director of Youth Services at the York County Library Systems. Michael, credit unions, libraries, explain this.
To help bridge the gap?
Hey, that's
sure.
Okay. That's okay. We like that.
Yeah. The Pennsylvania Library Association is rolling out its PA Forward initiative, which is all about literacy, and there's several literacies. Paul will get into that. What got our attention and made us want to partner with the Library Association is they're giving a lot of focus to financial literacy.
Right.
And as you know from our show,
overall literacy
part
approach.
of one of several literacies, and as you know, that's something that we're extremely interested in. And
okay, we're going to start. All right, Paul, look, are libraries under this initiative sort of changing their focus to get, with changing times? Is that a good way to explain this?
Well, what we're doing is we're rebranding ourselves, Terry. We're doing the things that we've always done, but we're packaging them in such a way that it helps people to realize we're there and we're ready to help people on all fronts to help their lives be more successful. And PA Forward is hoping to focus on the initiatives that are really important, and that's basic literacy, information literacy, civic and social literacy, health literacy, and of course financial literacy.
So to put it another way, you've refocused what you already do in ways that sort of meet contemporary needs.
Absolutely.
Do I got that right?
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's talk about a few of them. You've got, basic literacy. There's two here that I see that you kind of traditionally have done, basic literacy and information literacy. Explain.
Well, basic literacy is really helping people to get the skills that they need to get a job and be comfortable
Right.
and get through their day-to-day lives. And information literacy is taking all the technology and helping people understand how to use those things. A lot of people are not comfortable with all the Kindle and the Nook and all of the information online. So libraries are there to help them.
Showing people how to use these?
We are,
Good
and our
for you.
teens love it.
Can I come over?
You certainly can.
I may need
Please
some
do.
help. Michael, I know he needs help.
But those things they've always been traditional library resources. But we've also done wonderful things from other aspects in civic and social literacy. It connects with what we were talking about, what you were talking about on your show earlier, voter information, being responsible in your community, and then getting into health literacy, knowing how to ask the right questions about your health, knowing who to go to and where to find information. And the library is there to help you do that.
Yeah.
And financial literacy is very important. What we're seeing is that children, teens, and adults don't know how to take care of their individual financial needs.
Yeah.
And by partnering with people like Mike at the credit union, we can help people understand what's going
now,
on.
you have lots of information. Is this kind of a two-way street?
Oh,
Or
absolutely.
Talk
Absolutely.
about your role here.
Well, our primary role is libraries are a valued institution in virtually every community in Pennsylvania. And we have credit unions in virtually every community in Pennsylvania. Our credit unions want to deliver financial education. Libraries are a great fit as far as a venue to deliver that financial information because libraries are a hub of the community. So we just saw it as a natural when we were approached by the Library Association to be a partner in this initiative, and we just think it's a win-win.
Okay, so we've got these 5: basic literacy, information literacy, civic and social literacy, health literacy, and financial literacy. It's pretty much internal, but you also are looking outside, I probably wrongly put, the walls of the library into the larger community.
Right. What we're doing is we're looking at partnering, just like with Mike and the credit unions, with other organizations that are looking to be forward-thinking and to utilize the library's capacities. We're looking at other nonprofit agencies. We're looking at some profit-forming companies that to help us get the word out and to partner with us. We have an advisory board. We have a partnership board. And we're working with folks to try and get the word out. And people like Mike with the credit union, they're helping us in very important areas. Financial literacy, we want the credit unions to come to libraries, do programs for the community so that people can find out more.
As part of this, I mean, look, you all are, every time I read, I probably don't have this exactly correct, libraries seem to be a convenient target for budget cuts. I noticed they tried them in Philadelphia, and there was an outrage, and I think they ended up having to restore the money when Mayor Nutter tried that a couple of years ago. Are libraries under increasing, am I accurate about this?
Yes.
Financial, is this in part a way to build community relationships?
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Thank you very much. But no,
I would
PA
think
Forward.
you should do that.
PA Forward is an advocacy movement as well. It's designed to help local libraries attract the attention of their local officials and work it all the way up to the state level so that we can remind people that libraries are an integral part of what goes on in Pennsylvania and help to move that whole advocacy issue forward.
Yeah.
We're looking at a budget cut again this year, and we're hoping to make that go away.
Sure, yeah.
So,
well, I commend you, and you know, I'm obviously a professor for my entire life. Libraries, I've spent too much of my time in them at one point in my life. I will tell you that. I still love libraries, but quite frankly, good luck with what you're doing. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.